Alright, so let's talk next about find and modify in the Node.js driver. So first let's talk a little bit about what the purpose is of this function. So let's look at the two different ways you can do an update. So one is you do a query, then you do your update by replacing the document with the result of your query. Now the problem here, as we saw before when I was talking about adding the _ID field to our query, is that you may do a query, something may change about the document we care about, and then by the time we do the update, the document is completely different from what we saw earlier. On the other hand, if you do an in-place update and you want the resulting document back, you may do an update and then a query to get the resulting document. And just like before, anything can happen in this space of time. You may do the update, the document may change to be unrecognizable by the time you can do a query to take a look at the document's contents. So that's the reason for find and modify. Find and modify atomically updates and returns the document. In fact, we can actually specify whether we want to return the new document or the old document. So let's look at an example. Alright, so this is an example of when find and modify would be useful. So at a high level, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to increment a counter and get the value of the counter immediately after we incremented, before anyone had a chance to also increment the value or change its value. And so for this, we really do need find and modify, because if we tried to do an update and then a find to get the new value of the counter, other clients could have also called update and incremented our counter, so by the time we find it, we don't actually get the value that it had immediately after we updated it. So this is an example of when we would need find and modify. So let's go over the pieces of this example. So first we connect, just like in all our other examples, and once we have our database connection, we call db.collection and then get the counters collection. Then once we have a reference to the counters collection, we call find and modify. So this takes 4 arguments, so let's go through them one by one. So first there's our query, and this is very similar to the query selector in an update. It just tells us which documents we're looking to modify. So in this case, we're looking for documents that have a name of comments. Now, the next argument is sort. So it may seem a little strange that we're doing a sort here because find and modify actually only modifies and returns a single document. So why would we need a sort here? So the reason we need a sort is consider the situation where this query is not specific enough. So in this example, maybe we have 2 documents that have the name field with the value of comments. So in that case, we don't really know which document we're going to update, because find and modify will only update the first document that it finds, and then return that in our result. So the sort order gives us a way to get more control over which document we're updating. So in this example, if 2 documents had a name of comments, we could sort by some other field, and that would give us more control over which document that matched name comments would get updated. In this case, I'm just assuming only one document has a name of comments, so I'm not even passing in the sort because I'm not worried about this happening. Next argument is our operator, and this is actually exactly the same as an update operator. It just specifies what operation we're trying to do on the document. So in this case, we're trying to increment our counter by 1. Now the next argument is the options argument, and the option that we're passing in is new:true. And what that's saying is that we want the new document to be returned from find and modify. So find and modify can return either the document before we perform this update or the document after we perform the update. And so we actually want the new value of the counter, so we're passing new:true. So after find and modify completes, the driver will call our callback with the resulting document. So because we passed new:true here, the resulting document will be the new document after we've incremented our counter. So we're checking for an error here. We're making sure that we actually found a document, and if not, we log a message here. And if we did find a document, we log number of comments and then the number of comments in our counter. Then after that, we close the database connection. So let's actually run this and see what happens. Alright, so this is our find and modify example. So we ran it, we see no counter found for comments. So in our example, we actually checked to see if document was null, and if it is null, it means that there was no document that matched our query selector. So let's actually add a counter for comments so that when we run our app, it actually finds something, updates it, and we can see the result. Alright, so connected the course database, and let's do db.counters.insert, and let's do name of comments. I'm just not putting quotes around the name. That's a legal JavaScript, but not strict JSON. Alright, so now we've inserted a new counter. Notice that we didn't give it a counter field, and the reason for that is because, similar to the $set operator, if the field doesn't exist, increment will actually create it and assume that the value was 0. So let's run our application again. Now we see number of comments 1. We run it again, we see number of comments 2. If we run it again, we see number of comments 3. Alright, so that's an example of using findAndModify in Node.js. And the important thing about this is that no two applications running at the same time would have a conflict here. Because findAndModify atomically finds, modifies, and returns the document. So you couldn't have two applications that both get the same value for this counter because the counter is incremented and returned atomically. Alright, so this is the quiz on findAndModify in the Node.js driver. So the question is, which of the following calls to findAndModify will add the dropped field to the homework document with the lowest grade and call the given callback with the resulting document? So note that there are three parts to this question. The first part is our call to findAndModify actually matching the homework document with the lowest grade? The second part is it successfully adding the dropped field to the homework? And the third part is, will it actually call the callback with the resulting document, or will it call the callback with the old version of the document? So your task is to select the correct answer out of these options provided.